Network studio in New York City. I'm Brendan Glasheen. This is Green Dot Daily. We are back every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to our channel. Please like the video as well. Our first NFL Sunday of 2023 is in the books. Yep, overreaction time. We all do it. A lot to get to. Simon Hunter grades the NFC after watching the Cowboys destroy the Giants. Darren Rovell on the success of unders yesterday. Those guys are coming up. But, folks, please understand this, okay? If I told you that 3 of the top 4 favorites in the AFC would be 0-1, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that, right? Short-handed Chiefs dropped their home opener on Thursday. Joe Burrow held under 100 passing yards for the first time in his career. 24-3 loss to the Browns. And then you've got the Bills and the Jets. One of these teams is going to have a game up on the rest of the conference contenders after tonight. So that allows me to welcome in Sean Koerner, Nick Giffen of our predictive analytics team at Action Network. They're joining us here at Green Dot Daily. I do like to ask both of you narrative-based questions because I feel like it makes you a little uncomfortable, but I mean that in the best way possible because you crunch so many numbers. But look, all eyes are on Aaron Rodgers. Jets debut. Green Bay tenure ends in turmoil. I'd add the Packers looked very refreshed without Aaron Rodgers yesterday. Jordan Love looked pretty good. And the Bills, they can't make it out of the divisional round, at least the last 2 years. Early last season, they were getting best team in the league kind of attention. So, Koerner, it's my long way of asking, which team to you has to make a bigger statement tonight, the Bills or the Jets?
I think this is much more of a, statement must-win game for the Bills. I think it's critical for them to lock down the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. They can't keep trying to get to the Super Bowl having to go through Arrowhead and Patrick Mahomes. They have to lock down the 1 seed, so they have to win tonight. Whereas the Jets, I wouldn't be shocked if they get off to a bit of a slow start. Rodgers still has to gain chemistry with some of his, new pass catchers. Plus, they have the toughest schedule by far over the first 6 weeks. They play the Bills tonight, obviously. Then they play the Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles. So I would not be shocked if they get off to a slow start. And then towards the end of the season, maybe they get on a run. They have the 7th easiest schedule to close out the final 6 games. So I think this is much more of a must-win game for the Bills tonight.
Bigger statement for the Jets or the Bills as far as how this game unfolds, Nick Giffen?
Yeah, I think I got to go with Sean here and go with the Bills. It's one of those situations where they're expected to be the good team. They're expected to be the better team. And yes, of course, Aaron Rodgers is added to the New York Jets here. But Aaron Rodgers has historically been a little bit slow to get up to speed under new schemes, new offenses. 3 of the last 4 years, week 1, 10 points or less for his teams in week 1. So I really think the Jets need to get off on the right foot. A little interesting wrinkle, though, in the matchup between the Jets and the Buffalo Bills here. If we look at our Action Network luck rankings, this is the 3rd largest luck differential of the week, with the Jets being the unlucky team. So even more important for the Bills to overcome that, because we know from our luck rankings, it's hard to overcome being the luckier team in this matchup.
We will have Sean Koerner's player prop coming in just a moment. I'll tell you this, he's on DraftKings and he's looking at the wide receiver position, so stand by. One more question, though, bigger picture, looking at tonight's game. As far as the game itself, Koerner, Aaron Rodgers, as I led off the top, all eyes are on him. What, from a game, just watching the game, consuming it, what interests you in this game?
Well, from a fantasy player prop perspective going forward, I'm going to be watching how this Jets running back situation shakes out tonight. They have one of the best running backs in the game in Breece Hall, but he's coming back from a torn ACL last season. So they brought in Dalvin Cook to help lighten his workload, especially early in the season. I'm sure Breece Hall wasn't too thrilled about that, but I'm going to be interested to see how, their usage and their snaps shake out, especially early on. Because this is a situation I'm avoiding in props and fantasy this week, but going forward, we're going to get a lot of info on how they're going to handle this going forward with, tonight's game.
How about you, Nick? I know you gave the luck breakdown. What might interest you besides Rodgers?
Yeah, again, going in that player props, fantasy kind of thing. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. I'm going to look at the Bills here. How much 12 personnel are they going to use? Two tight end formations. How is that going to impact the wide receivers? Maybe especially the third or fourth wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills, because obviously Dalton Kincaid now joins Dawson Knox as a two-headed monster here for the tight end position for the Buffalo Bills. So very curious what kind of splits we'll see there at tight end. How much 11 versus how much 12 personnel, and what knock-on effect that has on their wide receivers.
Yeah, they invested a high draft pick in Dalton Kincaid out of Utah to pair him up with Dawson Knox. Okay, moment of truth. Koerner, first Monday night player prop. What do you got for us tonight? Jets, Bills, week 1. Where are you going?
So I'm going with Gabe Davis under 45.5 receiving yards. And as president of the Gabe Davis fan club, I can't tell you how much this pains me, but this is a brutal matchup for Gabe, who will be facing off against Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed for most of his routes tonight, which is just one of the toughest matchups in the league. And, he's a downfield threat. So the Jets are one of the toughest teams to throw downfield against. They allow the third lowest success rate on targets 20-plus yards downfield. I think Josh Allen's going to have more success targeting the middle of the field tonight with guys like Deontay Hardy, Dalton Kincaid, maybe Dawson Knox. Plus, the Bills were also willing to slide Stephon Diggs into the slot a lot more against the Jets last season in order to avoid Sauce and Reed, but not Gabe Davis. So I think, they're going to still get Diggs his looks. Davis might just be sort of a decoy, stretching the field and sort of opening up these targets over the middle. Plus, the Bills' offensive line is going to have a brutal test tonight against the Jets' elite pass rush. So Allen might just not have time to throw downfield either. And on the other side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers is known just to, kill the clock, play at a slow pace. So I think that's going to potentially limit the overall volume the Bills have tonight. So I'm projecting Gabe's median closer to 42.5 yards. But he has a wide range of outcomes, and I just think it's more likely that he's going to finish closer to his floor tonight. So, I like getting the under 45.5 right now.
I would like to tell you, Koerner, that you can get 46.5 yards over at FanDuel, too.
Oh, even better. Yeah, well, with Gabe Davis,
someone may have been looking while you were doing your analysis.
Yeah. With Gabe Davis, each yard probably doesn't make too big of a difference. He's probably going to finish with like 30 or 150. So one thing I noticed is you can get his over 100 receiving yards at 9-1 in some spots right now. I'm projecting that closer to plus 700. So if this prop isn't for the faint of heart, if you want to hedge a little bit and take that, I'm not doing that. You could do that because he has such a wide range of outcomes for both extremes. So if you want to invest a little bit in his over 100 yards at plus 900, go for it.
Okay. All right, Nick Giffen, how about yourself? And you actually, we've Rodgers will be at center stage tonight at MetLife Stadium. Your prop actually relates to the quarterback.
Yeah, I was interested. Gotten a few messages today about the most bet props for this game, and none of them included Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to go with an Aaron Rodgers prop. And while I do like his over 33.5 passing attempts, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers to throw an interception at plus 115. You can get plus 115 at BetMGM. I think plus 114 at DraftKings. I like I said, I haven't projected over 33.5 passing attempts. So if we use the 35.5-ish that I haven't projected for, and then look at a couple things, something called bad balls, which Aaron Rodgers last year threw around 10% bad ball rate. And this is something, got to give a hat tip to Ed Fang of the Power Rank. He noticed that bad balls correlate with interception rate a lot more than interception rate correlates with interception rate. And I know, of course, our predictive analytics team, Sean, Billy Ward, they've also been looking at, turnover type throws and stuff to look at interception luck. Well, just using Aaron Rodgers' bad ball rate, it was around 10% last year. So 10% of 35.5 pass attempts is around 3.5 bad balls. And then about 20% of bad balls are intercepted. So that would, just using basic math, give around 0.7 interceptions on average, which would come out to a coin flip because there's a very heavy amount of 0 and then some 1 and then 2, 3, 4, et cetera, has a small probability. But that would be against an average defense. He's facing the Buffalo Bills defense, which is no average NFL pass defense. They forced over an 18% bad ball rate last year, which is almost double what Aaron Rodgers' bad ball rate was and was highest in the NFL. And they had 1.06 interceptions per game last year, which was actually unlucky. They should have had, based off the 20% interception to bad ball rate, 1.3 interceptions per game. So at best, I've got Rodgers a coin flip to avoid throwing an interception. And actually, he's probably should be favored to throw an interception. So getting plus money is pretty nice. And one final thing, could be raining in the first half of this game, which could help this prop as well. And it's less game script dependent than the over 33.5 passing attempts, where if the Jets were to take a lead, we could see that be a problem here in a 2-point line. So can still get an interception thrown even if the game script is in the Bills' favor or in the Jets' favor.
Yeah, if last night was any indication, the way that game took place between the Giants and the Cowboys, it was pretty soggy out there at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah.
Sean Koerner, Nick Giffen, find them both in the Action Network app. The picks they just gave out will be there. And we appreciate you both stopping by. Green Dot Daily from Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
man.
we'll be live tonight with Bet What Happens live at halftime. Got the 2-minute warning, so don't forget that. We got live player props to bet.
Giffen, keep it up, pal. That's your baby. So I know you're off and running here week 1. I'm looking forward to excellent shows throughout the course of the year. Bet What Happens live. That's coming up with Nick. Thanks to those guys. On to NFL Week 1 storylines. Tua Tagovailoa shined in Los Angeles. 215 of his 466 yards passing. Hauled in by Tyreek Hill, that Browns defense earlier in the day, swarming Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And how about the under yesterday? 11-4 in Week 1. It felt like an extension of the preseason for many teams as far as their offensive progression. And the Dallas Cowboys, wow, they crushed Daniel Jones and the Giants 40-zip at MetLife. Now, prior to that brutal bashing, the Favorites podcast went live to dissect the top of the NFC with the Niners and Eagles both winning. And there's another team that I didn't mention. Here's Simon Hunter.
I don't want to overreact, but I am going to react and definitely move the 49ers right back up above the Cowboys. That they're just right behind the Eagles right now. It's those two are just clearly the best team. And yeah, if the Cowboys come out tonight and win by 40 points on the road against the Giants, I can revisit that.
Well, here we are revisiting, my friend. He joins Green Dot Daily now. I mean, right on the nose, dude. 40 points. That part was right, but I'm still wondering and curious if you are going to change your tune on the Dallas Cowboys after winning 40-0 last night.
I would, but I can't not factor in people's playoff history. And every time you talk about the Cowboys and Dak, you have to talk about their playoff history. So nothing's changed my opinion on them. I still think they're the team that had the best value heading into the season on the NFC East, but I have no futures on the Cowboys beyond that. So they're a team that if right now we're talking about on a neutral field, I would still have the 49ers and the Eagles above them. And if the Cowboys were to host the 49ers or the Eagles right now, I would still make them a home underdog for a conference championship game or a playoff game against those two teams. So I am highly impressed by that Cowboys team. Yeah, that was an incredible display of their defensive talent. But yeah, I'm not gonna overreact as so many do in Week 1. But I will say this: they were promised us something all off season. This defense will be better than it was last year, the Cowboys, and it looks like that promise might be true. Those additions looked like the real deal last night. I mean, Gilmore, you never heard his name last night. That's a good thing when you're a cornerback to never hear someone's name. So yeah, 7 sacks. That D line's really well prepared for that game. But yeah, still don't have the Cowboys as the top 2 in the NFC yet.
Well, to your point, they had takeaways and they executed on short fields. Let me ask you this, not a lot to work with. How would you evaluate Mike McCarthy as a play caller from what you could gather?
I was really excited to see how they were going to use Pollard. The fact they gave him so many touches, even in the red zone, right? They really made it look like he is their goal line back. He's their first down, second down, even third down running back. That's a big deal. If you had a lot of questions heading into the season about Pollard, he looks like he's everything he was promised to us. So again, another guy that if he can hold up, that's a big deal for this Cowboys team. He looks like the real deal there at running back.
14 carries, 2 receptions on 3 targets for Tony Pollard and the Cowboys. Okay, well, they just have to keep impressing you, I guess, out of the gate for you to have any love for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's welcome in Darren Rovell, who's going to discuss one of the trends I brought up moments ago. Simon will stick with us for this one. Darren, as I said, under was the right side. Unders are fun every once in a while. 11-4 unders yesterday in Week 1 Sunday. What can you tell us as far as how that played out and how road teams fared?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a little bit of Cowboys history because I have to do this. The Cowboys-Giants first. The biggest loss for the Giants against the Cowboys since 1966. Don Meredith to Dan Reeves 3 times. I mean, that is how bad that is. One of my friends was at the game. He said the best part, Giants fan, was the national anthem. And then a note from my guy Evan Abrams. Over the last 20 years, Daniel Jones is second to last in quarterbacks in money line profitability at night. The only one worse is, of course, the redheaded stepchild, Andy Dalton. All right, so you said unders 11-4, and it's amazing. How do I go 0-9 when the unders are 11-4? It just doesn't make any sense as the under king. And then road teams are 12-3 against the spread, which is the best since 2006. The last time that at least 12 teams on the road had covered the spread. So those are a couple of trends that we've been looking at.
So, Simon, we know, and some of those teams that helped unders deliver were teams that got blown out because they didn't keep pace, the Giants being one of them, another team like the Texans with a new regime, new coach, new quarterback. Seahawks and Steelers, we think we're going to take the next step this year and build on their success at the end of last year. Those are some teams. The Bengals were a surprising team as far as just getting blown out. How do you bet teams that really underperformed, and for the most part, offensively, they were underwhelming? How do you bet those teams that got blown out in Week 1 into Week 2?
So the biggest thing for me is you make predictions heading into the season,
Yep.
and you don't overreact to Week 1. So whatever number I have for each team, I try to stick to that number. Now, I will adjust where guys will overperform, and I'll be like, okay, I was too low on him. The 49ers were a good team. I was too low on Brock Purdy. He looked in total command of that offense. On the flip side, Kenny Pickett, I was too high on coming into the season. So that's one of those I'll readjust my view on the Steelers team and what Kenny Pickett's value is towards the point spread. So there are a couple teams that jump out like that. And then there's just teams that people get burned on and no one's going to bet them this upcoming week. And that's kind of where I step in, where the Bengals are really going to be a pros team this week. Like the pros will be on the Bengals because the public loved the Bengals this week and they got blown out. They lost a lot of money and they're mad. Do mad people go and bet on the same team they lost money on the week before? No. But pros, that's what we love. Like we took the Browns last week. Now I come in, I'll take the Bengals at home. It was -3, but that pro money is coming. Now it's up to -3.5 against that Ravens team. So that's just an instance of the professionals. They're not going to overreact. They're not going to overadjust to what happened Week 1. The public will. So to them, that Ravens at 3.5 after they just won by, 14, 15 points at home.
Yeah.
That's going to be one of the square picks all week. People are going to come in heavy on that Ravens team. So I'm hoping it goes back down to 3 so people can get that good number that I gave out Sunday night. But the professionals might keep it up at 3.5.
Yeah, I would remind people last year, Cincinnati started 0-2. They played Dallas Week 2 on the road and lost 20-17 in that ball game.
Cooper Rush. People might forget that part. To Cooper
true.
Rush. That happened.
So I'm not trying to, bang on your pick here as far as
no, but it's true. They start slow. The Bengals, that is a real thing now. We have evidence of that back-to-back seasons.
Okay, let's move on to tonight's game. We've been highlighting this one tonight, highly anticipated. It could be the game of the week. Who knows? Chargers-Dolphins was pretty darn good yesterday. But we got Aaron Rodgers, debut at MetLife Stadium, taking on division rival Buffalo. Simon, you've been picking this game apart all week on these shows, on the Favorites Pod. I remember what you said earlier in the week about, I hope this gets to 3. You're not getting that wish, man. That's not happening. This is probably going to close at 2 or 1.5, unless there's some significant Bills money that comes in here as this game gets closer to kickoff. Where are you at on Jets-Bills Monday night?
Yeah, still like it if you can get the 2. I mean, we talk all the time. People think 2's not a key number. It is, and you got a great example of that in that Chargers-Miami game. Extra points not a given. It just has not been a given since they changed the rules. So 2.5 is such a key number. So yeah, you could have gotten 2.5 for the last 4 months. And now here, the day of the kickoff, it's down to 2, 1.5. So that's one of those where it's not the biggest deal. I'd still take it at 2, but I definitely feel better getting the 2 or 2.5 than I do again at 1.5, just because it is such a key number. So in this matchup, I mean, we've been talking ad nauseum about it. It's just a great matchup for this Jets team. Yeah. They have the guys on defense that can slow down Josh Allen. And the only real weakness of this Bills team is their offensive line. So what you expect in this game is the Jets have a great pass rush. And on the flip side, the Achilles heels of the Jets is their offensive line. Like, Rodgers is terrible when he has to throw off his spot, when he's getting moved around the pocket. The Bills don't really have any pass rushers. Like, Von Miller is on the four-week IR. Like, the guy they brought in to be their big pass rush isn't in this game. So, if this was week 10, 11, right, I might be on the Bills in this spot. But the fact that it's so early in the season, you kind of think that this was just a good spot to take this Jets team, in the sense that the Bills, we saw from these high-paid, these incredible offenses, all looked really slow this past week. Jalen Hurts got a huge new contract, played like crap. Joe Burrow got a huge new contract, did not play well. Highest quarterback in the league, Mahomes. I know it wasn't his fault. He didn't play great either. So you're kind of seeing a trend here of these teams that, they went on their quarterback positions. They're not doing too great. So we'll see that continues with Joe Burrow here. But the Rodgers move, that's really everything here, right? It's the hardest part of handicapping this game was last year a mirage with Aaron Rodgers, or is that what he is now? Has he hit that part of his career where he's over the hill? Because Jordan Love, he stepped right into that offense yesterday, and he looked great with Green Bay. So it does feel like the pressure is shifted from the Bills now that it is on this Jets team. But I said it again, you're betting on matchups. This matchup of the D-line against Josh Allen, it's the biggest takeaway from this game. Like, that's the Jets. If they can't get to Josh Allen, they can't slow him down, this is going to be over. Like, they got the weapons. Gabe Davis fully healthy. Stephon Diggs fully healthy. Like, that will be an issue if they can't get pressure on Josh Allen, but I think they will. Everything I've seen from this Jets defense, they are just so talented up front.
And I think it's night and day, too, compared to last year when the Bills played in the opener against the Rams, where everyone was coming in on Buffalo as being maybe the best team in the league. Now, not everyone's talking about them as much. And to your point about Von Miller being out, perhaps it's a soft landing for this offensive line for the Jets that has got a bunch of criticism in the preseason. Their coach calling them out on Hard Knocks. So that's something to look at as well up front. Darren, Rovell, how about a market report? Where are we at as far as money coming in on either team? What can you tell us?
The Bills are getting most of the money and the bets, about 2/3 of the money and the bets. And I'm actually really impressed with the public that 2/3 of the money is also coming in on the under, opened at 47.5, now down to 45.5. Maybe they've learned that Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers are those names where you're like, always over, along with Mahomes. No. I mean, you have the Jets, obviously a different team, worst team in the NFL last year, to the over, so 12-5 in the under. Aaron Rodgers was about 500. Josh Allen and the Bills were 7-12 last year, 12-7 to the under. So it's actually surprising to me when the public in general likes to like points. You rarely see something like this, especially when there's excitement like an Aaron Rodgers debut. Plus, you have like the Bills, who people generally think always hit the over. I'm actually surprised where the money is now.
What can you tell us about touchdown scores for tonight? Who might be, because I'm fascinated by the running back dynamic with the Jets, because Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, we will see both of them. And then, of course, with Buffalo, they added tight end in Kincaid. So, and as Simon said, the health of Gabe Davis, that's a good sign. What can you tell us about most bet touchdown scores?
The most bet prop is Garrett Wilson, anytime touchdown, plus 145. Obviously, Stefan Diggs is always there. That's a first touchdown, actually, plus 850. Okay. So those are the two biggest ones, and then the hilarious one, which I always love, quarterback rushing yards. Josh Allen over 36.5 rushing yards. The public thinks that's absolutely tremendous free money. 99% of the bets on the over, minus 115. Free money. In fact, they think he's going to do that maybe on the first play.
We'll see if they install that running game. They've been talking about it this year, trying to give Josh Allen a legitimate running game outside of himself. Simon Hunter of the Favorites podcast, Darren Rovell, thank you both so much for joining us here on Green Dot Daily.
You got it.
All right. So, speaking of touchdown scores, Gilles Gallant, he's got his picks for tonight's game.
Here are my 2 touchdown score picks for Bills Jets, brought to you by the Action Network app. And my first pick is going to be Allen Lazard. I grabbed his touchdown odds at plus 285. Now, it was a bit of a down year for Lazard last season. He was dealing with injury, but he still finished with 6 touchdowns, career high 100 targets. And he should be able to expose Buffalo's secondary. They allowed 18 touchdowns to wide receivers last year. No Tremaine Edmonds patrolling the middle of the field anymore. And Lazard was brought on because of his connection with Rodgers. He'll have the trust of the quarterback in tight spots. And this is a decent price, too, because we didn't see Allen Lazard above plus 250 for an anytime touchdown at all last year. And my next pick, you had to know who it was going to be. It was going to be Dawson Knox at plus 350. Come on, did you really think I was going to bet anyone else? Knox is my guy. He finished the year with touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 games, if you include the playoffs. And the rule for Knox is when he's above plus 200, that's when you want to bet him, because in 9 games last year where he had odds of plus 200 or better, he hit in 6 of them. Now, Dalton Kincaid, I think he'll have a role too, but I'm not really ready to sell my stock on Knox, who has 15 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. So those are my 2 picks. We're going with Dawson Knox and Allen Lazard, both tracked at the Action Network app. Bon chance.
Our extensive breakdown of Bills Jets continues later this evening at 5:30 Eastern. Host Megan Payton joins you for Action Island. She'll have Tim Kalinowski alongside Luke Swain, a.k.a. Vegas Refund, and Anthony DeBundo. All the angles you need to know for Jets and Bills on Action Island. Remember, any picks we give out here on Green Dot Daily, you can easily reference by following our show account, Green Dot Daily, in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. All right, folks, thanks so much for tuning into the show. Looking forward to this game tonight. Aaron Rodgers, what are you made of, pal? What are you made of in the big city? We'll see how it goes. Should be fun. Thanks to all of our guests today. Darren Rovell, Sean Koerner, Nick Giffen, Simon Hunter, Gilles Gallant, Brendan Glasheen signing off. We'll do this again tomorrow at 3 Eastern. Thanks for watching Green Dot Daily.